Hi friends, how you doing? Having a good day? Sure hope so. I'm Betty Rage, your favorite nerdy goth mom, and this is Lashes and Lore, where I like to blend eyeliner with an epic backstory. Because why can't your cut crease come with character development? So last time we followed Drizzt Do'Urden, D&D's most dramatic dark elf, from his cursed birth in Menzoberranzan to his total moral rebellion, his feral Underdark exile, and that iconic moment where a magical panther literally chose him over every other drow. But today, his exile ends and the surface world begins. Spoiler, it's not a warm welcome. So let's talk panthers, prejudice, and what happens when the most wanted drow in all of the Underdark walks into the sun and he's still not safe. Oh, and hey, if you're wondering what I'm smearing all over my face while we talk about Drizzt walking straight into danger like it's his job, the product list is in the description below. Because nothing says emotional resilience like waterproof mascara. All right, let's get back into it. Story time. Let's pick up right where we left off. Drizzt and Gwenavar, both feral and fabulous, skulking through the Underdark like two emotionally unavailable cryptids. But who doesn't love a good cryptid? But even the darkest tunnels end eventually somewhere. And after months of surviving as the hunter, a predator with no name, no language, just instinct, Drizzt does something terrifying. He chooses hope again. He starts to climb upward toward the light, toward life, and then the sun hits him. The birds, they are far too loud. The air, it smells like freedom, but also pollen. His eyes, well, they're burning. His skin, it's quite offended. It's like stepping into a judgmental high elf's dream journal. And honestly, he hates it. And you know what the worst part is of all of that? People, you probably knew. I know. People are pretty bad. But some people are good. Anyways, we're not here for therapy. But the reason people are so terrible is because people, surface dwellers, they don't see a refugee. They see a nightmare. They see they're prejudiced. Drow aren't unknown. They are feared. And thanks to years of justified surface level racism and honestly some very cursed priestesses, Drizzt gets greeted with suspicion, crossbows, and die, dark elf kind of energy wherever he really goes. I mean, he could have turned back. He could have let the hunter take over, but he doesn't. He just keeps walking, keeps helping, even when it hurts, even when no one thanks him. He's just doing the right thing because doing good isn't about applause. It's a choice. And that's honestly one of the things that makes Drizzt dangerous to everyone who expects him to be evil. And by the way, if you are loving this level of nuance, you have R.A. Salvatore to thank for that. Drizzt wasn't written as a trope. He was written as a challenge. And in over more than 30 books, Salvatore shows us what it means to break cycles, build identity, and ask, who am I when nobody believes in me? And if you are a D&D player who wants to build a character like Drizzt or roleplay Drizzt as a dungeon master in-game, don't just defy expectations. Explore what that costs your character. Identity crises are free real estate in D&D. A free action, if you will. So, wounded, but albeit determined, Drizzt keeps moving. He drifts through the wilderness of the Sword Coast like a ghost in leather boots. He avoids people, saves them in secret. He survives, but he doesn't really live. And Gwenavar, she's still there. Still shows up anytime he calls. Still the only soul that looks at him with trust instead of terror. Eventually, he starts to hear rumors about a frozen nowhere called the Icewind Dale. 10 tiny little settlements clinging to survival at the edge of the world. No nobles, no politics. And if you've played the rhyme of the Frost Maiden, then you already know that this place is cold, it is cursed, and it is teeming with trauma. There is an eternal winter that is keeping the sun from rising. Auril, the Frost Maiden herself, is stalking the tundra like a divine freeze-dried nightmare, and whole towns making human sacrifices just to stay alive. But for Drizzt, it's a second chance. He hides out in the snow. He watches people from a distance, rescues a few travelers who were definitely not ready to thank a gorgeous dark elf with twin scimitars and a panther. And eventually, he meets the first people who aren't trying to kill him, like right on sight, the first time they meet him. So yeah, the Icewind Dale, not really emotionally stable, but for Drizzt, he kind of fits in. He watches from the woods, intervenes quietly when necessary, and slowly, he starts to feel like maybe, just maybe, he's not alone. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Because under the snow and all of the silence, Drizzt is still drowning in questions. Am I doing good, or am I just pretending? My eyebrows are very expressive. So when I'm talking and expressing, my eyebrows are moving everywhere. It's very hard to put my makeup on. Should have thought about that before I decided to make series of videos where I put on makeup and talk. Anyway, Drizzt, he still has questions. Am I doing good? Am I just pretending? Or can someone like me be forgiven for where I come from? And if I ever stop fighting, what will I become? So, some deep questions that he's got there. But let's explore the party of chosen family. The party that Drizzt didn't know he needed. The found family in the frozen north. Because after years of trauma, betrayal, and magical beast therapy, Drizzt finally stumbles into something that he's never had before. People who care if he lives or dies. It starts with Bruenor Battlehammer. And just like his name suggests, he's a grumpy dwarf. Dwarf? Betty, stop it. He is a grumpy dwarf king in exile with a heart of gold under a beard of sarcasm. Something I tend to like. He's a blacksmith because, dwarf. And he's the only person in the Icewind Dale with a bigger attitude than he has beard. And quite honestly, he doesn't actually trust Drizzt at first. But once Drizzt proves that he's not evil, he's just morally exhausted, Bruenor is like, yeah, all right, you're one of mine now. Then we have Wulfgar, however you want to say it. He's a himbo barbarian with rage issues and serious adopted son vibes. Wulfgar is a former slave with enough trauma and muscle to crush a frost giant. Drizzt, while he trains him like a sword dad with a soft side, mentors him, and occasionally stares off into the snow, wondering how he got stuck with such a jock. Then we have Regis, the halfling rogue, a charming disaster who reminds Drizzt of how to exist among people again. He's also 90% charisma and 10% nap. Feels. He's a chaotic neutral at best. He's definitely running from something, but still down for snack breaks and stolen jewels. And then we have Catti-brie. Catti-brie is the only one who sees Drizzt, questions him, and then stands beside him anyway. We're talking slow burn, sword sparring, moral alignment, flirting, chemistry. Smart, fearless, witty. The only person who can match Drizzt step for step and talk back to him while she's doing it. We love her. The tension between these two, chef's kiss. She doesn't just see Drizzt, she challenges him. And I think that's a really nice compliment. And I know there's online chatter about the age difference between Drizzt and Catti-brie, because I think when he meets her the first time, he's much older and she's much younger, but he's an elf and she's not. So there's never actually relationship talk until she's old enough for that. We'll just move on from that. It's fantasy. These folks, they're not just a party. their home, a soft place in a hard world. The first time that Drizzt feels like he's been a part of something, not because he has to be, but because he wants to be. And if you're a player who is starting a new campaign, found family arcs, they really hit different when you let your edgy character open up, let them bond, let them break, because that's where the magic lives. And while we're on the topic, your character doesn't need a tragic backstory to grow. Sometimes growth comes from people who remind them that they're more than what they survived. Right. So Drizzt is a fantasy character. So, 5 days go by and then we have another epic arc of a story. So we come upon now the rival. Oh, there is glitter all over this brush. Shit. Don't let your 7-year-old play with your makeup brushes. So everything's going great-ish until it's not. Just when Drizzt's life starts to feel like it might actually be stable. Artemis Entreri breaks down the door like some kind of final boss in the Drizzt trauma arc. Artemis Entreri, assassin, chaos gremlin, and Drizzt's literal narrative foil. He's cold, precise, and deadly. So Artemis is basically what Drizzt would have become if he had stayed in Menzoberranzan and given up on all moral clarity. Cold, calculated, and catty. Where Drizzt fights for honor, Entreri fights to win. And if he can break Drizzt in the process, even better. Entreri isn't just here for a contract. He's here to prove a point that mercy is weakness, honor is a lie, and Drizzt is a fraud. They first clash over Regis, who Entreri is trying to kidnap on behalf of a crime lord. Because of course. And the second Drizzt sees him, it's game over. Entreri is not just a rival, he's a mirror. He's exactly what Drizzt would have become if he hadn't chosen mercy or hope. They fight like it's personal, because it is. And every blow isn't just steel, it's identity. Entreri wants Drizzt to admit that it's all just a mask. He's still the killer Menzoberranzan made him to be. But spoiler, Drizzt doesn't fold. Drizzt doesn't really know how to fold. And if you're a dungeon master that's looking to build your own legendary rival, give your villain personal stakes. Entreri doesn't just want to kill Drizzt, he wants to invalidate him. And that's the good deep stuff. The buy-in, if you will. Now, I am no movie director, obviously. Right? Yeah, they know that. You know that. Anyways, I'm no movie director, but let's talk about a scene that lives rent-free in my mind. Drizzt versus Entreri. In the snow, in silence. There is no crowd. There is no glory. Just two swords, two philosophies, two versions of what a drow could be. Drizzt, he's fast. Entreri, he's relentless. The fight is brutal. It's quiet. It's intimate. Every swing is a sentence. Every block or parry is a rebuttal. And in the middle of it, Catti-brie is watching. She doesn't just see a fight, she sees a fracture. She sees the man that she loves torn between who he is and who the world keeps telling him he's supposed to be. And afterward, she says the one thing to Drizzt that Drizzt could never say to himself. You are not him, Drizzt. You never were. And honestly, that hits harder than any sword could ever. So when you're playing a character, your character's growth arc, it doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes one sentence from the right person is a moment that changes everything. Which brings us to our next section, Drizzt's moment of doubt. He doesn't just fight enemies, he's always fighting with himself. And after that first clash with Entreri, after seeing how close he became to becoming the blade in his hand instead of the soul behind it, kind of breaks Drizzt a little. And by a little, I mean a lot. Like, he disappears into the woods for days. He doesn't eat. He doesn't summon Gwenavar. He walks circles in the snow, trying not to fall apart, because what if Entreri was right? What if his honor and his mercy is just a performance? What if the hunter was still inside him, just waiting? So then he writes in his journal. Yes, he keeps like a brooding elven tumbler. And in it, he confesses everything. He writes in his journal, "If there is a beast in me, is it enough to say that I have chosen not to feed it?" And I really feel like that's one of the most quiet, gut-wrenching chapters in the entire arc. And to me, that's one of the things that makes Drizzt real as a character. Not because he's perfect, but because he questions if he ever truly escaped the person that he was made to be. Right, so speaking of the people who were trying to make Drizzt be something else, back in Menzoberranzan, you guys, I'm never, ever going to be confident in the way that I say that word. So here we go. Back in Menzoberranzan, deep in the Underdark, things are not really okay, because while Drizzt is out there finding friends and inner peace, his mother, well, she's fuming. Like, she angry. Yes, Miss Matron Malice Do'Urden, the high priestess of Lolth, professional manipulator, and queen of weaponized motherhood, well, she's livid. And why, you might ask? Well, besides the obvious rebellion, Drizzt didn't just rebel and disobey. He disappeared completely, which means that he denied Lolth, he rejected his role, and worst of all, he survived without her. And that is unforgivable. So what does she do? Well, you know, he's not there for her to dole out guilt, shame, and rejection. So she performs dark rituals to locate him, along with sending assassins to kill him. She bargains with demons. And this psycho, yeah, I said it, she tries to bring back Zaknafine from the dead to punish him. Psychotic, but good story writing. But like, no, not Zach. Because in Drow society, legacy isn't earned, it's enforced. And Drizzt, well, he's refusing his destiny. And that isn't just rebellion to them, it's straight up blasphemy. So a little lore drop inside of a lore drop, loreception, if you will. Menzoberranzan doesn't forget. When a drow defects, the entire house suffers. So Drizzt didn't escape. He endangered the very power structure that Malice built her entire life around. And in case you were wondering, Malice's power grab will be a part of our part 3 of Drizzt. Drizzt Do'Urden. He walked into the light and found no sanctuary. Just suspicion, prejudice, crossbows. And yet, he kept walking. He found the Icewind Dale. He found friendship, maybe love. He found family, a family that chose him. And not because of his skills, but because of his soul. But the thing about shadows is they don't disappear. They follow. Artemis Entreri, his mirror, his rival, and maybe even his "I could have been you," is now on the board. He doesn't just fight Drizzt, he tries to rewrite him to prove that this honor and mercy, it's all fake, temporary, weak. And for like a moment, Drizzt actually believes him, stares into the snow, into himself, and just wonders if the hunter is still in there, just waiting. And while he doubts, Menzoberranzan burns. Matron Malice, she's not done. She's summoning demons, sending assassins, and resurrecting Drizzt's own father, whom he loved, just to break him. Because when a drow walks away from the web, the whole house, the entire house, all of it, trembles. And Drizzt didn't just walk away, he didn't just leave, he set it on fire. So we have our final makeup look, moody and dramatic, just like Drizzt. And my D20 earrings are from Norse Foundry. I love them. Anyways, so if you thought, Part 2 was dramatic. Part 3 gets feral, honestly. We're talking demon princes, reanimated regrets, hunter versus hero, the return to the Underdark, and the question that's been haunting him since the beginning: am I the blade or the hand that chooses not to kill? And if you are into morally messy elves and generational trauma and sword fights with your own reflection, stick around for part 3. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Betty Rage, your favorite nerdy goth mom. This is Lashes and Lore. Take care of each other, stay radiant, stay dangerous, and as always, free mom hugs from me to you. Bye. I'll see you next time.